somewhat modern, so around here. Like say, if there was a TV show or a movie, you could say, around, a certain year or something. And that's kind of the thought that I had, because I didn't want to have to, and honestly, probably in the writing process, it was probably chosen that way, so I didn't have to, describe certain things a certain way to make sure a time period seemed authentic, and in that way, that almost seemed like more work while I was creating the story, and the editing. And, sometime I'd love to do that, because period pieces can be really cool, But that was a cool thing about doing scenes down in Cuba, because, the buildings and the cars, it's like, stuck back in time 60 years, so.
It is, because you were talking about a lot of the 55s, 55.
Yeah, the 55 Chevys, because it seems like so many film, I've never been down to Cuba, I'd love to go someday, but all the film and video and stuff that I've seen, it's all old cars. And it's like nothing new. And I'm thinking like a Cuban car mechanic has to be like the best mechanic in the entire world, that they can make these cars still run with whatever parts they can find. Who knows how these things are running, but...
Washer and dryer parts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you could weld there, gosh, you'd probably make a mint. Yeah. But any other questions or comments? Yes.
I'm just curious.
Yes.
When you're mapping out, like more of the mechanics, when you're mapping out your characters, what's your process? Do you just like make a visual?
It's kind of, a lot of it's in my head, and it's finding your style, what works for you as a writer. Because a lot of people do a whole outline and do all these character developments and do all this stuff. But with me, if I spend all that time doing that, and a lot of time and energy into that, I won't get to the actual story.
Do you write it, or do you just...
No, I might write it, but then when I go to actually write, I'll barely look at it. Because when I write, the way it's worked for me to kind of get through it and not have to stop, or not feel like, not stop myself, is I don't stop, I don't fix my spelling, I don't fix my punctuation, I don't fix anything when I'm writing, and I'll badly misspell something, and I'll badly leave periods out and question marks and all this stuff. But if I go back to fix it each time, then it kind of interrupts my flow.
So you're not planning it all out ahead of time?
I kind of have just a raw skeleton, like this book, like Postcard Under the Door leads them to Cuba. Try to find their missing friend, and then fill in all the details when I actually write. And that's just what works for me, because that's the fun, and then because I had a bad habit of always trying to plan something out for too long, and then once the plan got all this elaborateness and all the energy went into that, I'd be too tired and then wouldn't want to, do the actual thing.
It also really ties you down into having to be true to that how would you say, that outline that you've created. If the outline is too in depth or too detailed, then you find yourself stick. You don't allow yourself to think freely, or to, You're too focused on trying to stay consistent with the theme of the story, rather than being more organic about it.
Sure. Sure. Yeah, it's and that's what I strive to do, is be, kind of organic as possible, I guess, in that way. Is just kind of keep it real, and that's why I have some of the dialogue sounding like it does. It can be smoother, it can be made smoother, but something about if it sounds like just two guys off the street having a conversation that you'd bump into, then I've done my job, because that's, it's like an actor knows he's been successful when people forget that he's acting. It's that kind of getting sucked in moment, if I can create it. But so I guess it's just finding what works for you, really. Finding how it works. How you're most productive, how the ideas. Yeah, and then finding how not only how you can be most productive like that, putting the prep work in, but then finding out, when your most productive times are, and then finding out the other areas in your life that make you more productive, and then just seeing how it all kind of interconnects, whether it's drinking enough water, or getting enough sleep, or eating decently, or not drinking too much the night before, or or not waking, you know, so that when you wake up, like you're not like hungover or have a headache, but it's just your brain's not firing as fast as it can. And for me, my most productive time was in the morning. Is like I'll wake up, have a little coffee, and then my mind's not super focused yet, but what it can focus on, it's like a tractor beam. And so that was like my best time to write. And so if I couldn't feel like my thoughts were flowing as fast as possible, then, you know, I'd almost feel like I was missing out on something. So, and I feel like, you know, this is something that hopefully I can, you know, do for a while, and I'm kind of building my foundation right now, and, you know, try to build it for the long run, because this will be 7 books. It'll take me to when I'm 39. On my 40th birthday, I'm probably going to do, I had an idea for a series that I had done in my 20s when I was in school. That'll be interesting to do it, you know, kind of later in life with just more life experience. Was 2 guys that wander into a hemp field, and they find this time machine device, but it can only send them back in time to save old rock stars from being killed. Now, not ones that died in like ODs or things like that.
Ricky Nelson in his plane crash.
People that died in plane crashes.
My
Like
day, Ricky Nelson.
I did a story about John Lennon, who got shot. I did a story about Randy Rhoads, who was Ozzy's first guitarist, because the story of how he died, it's insane. Like when I looked into it, it's just, I didn't have to make anything up for the story. It's just kind of crazy.
You have to say Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
The helicopter crash, exactly, stuff like that, yeah. So that could be a whole nother series. So it's, you know, it's interesting to have ideas that'll take me, you know, 15 years down the line, but I guess that's kind of comforting in a way.
No writer's block. See, it's
Yeah.
all flowing. It's good.
Yeah, so that's a good thing. And as I get a little better, and as it flows a little smoother, and I can see when, you know, when I can produce and how I can produce better, then it'll just, you know, hopefully people like it. I guess that's the best I can hope for. But
So have you figured out when to walk away? You know, when you're trying so hard to get it to come out, and you know, you can get so tense, and it's just like, ugh, you know, it's totally counterproductive.
yeah,
You know, sometimes I feel like, you know, I need to get away from my work.
Mhm.
So I have something else that I do instead, but frequently I still find myself in one of my 2 types of work that I will just keep trying to pound on it and pound on it and pound on it because I want to get it done now, you know. And so I still have a difficult time saying, you know what, I'm supposed to be doing something else.
Mhm.
You know, something else is really going to help me to be more productive later. So I don't have to get my writing done this morning by lunchtime. You know, I need to go to the beach, and maybe I'll come back later this afternoon or this evening will be a better time for me today.
Yeah.
You know, you find yourself able to do that, because I'm sure that through your writing process, and like you're saying, there are probably plenty of times where you feel like you're blocked. You know, you've got a block, and do you find that you're able to deal with those challenges more now after this, through the process of this book, than you have books in the past?
Yeah, definitely. Because of finding that productive time for me was in the morning.
Yeah.
I also found that, like, you know, after writing, I'd write for like 3 hours, stop, and usually take a break, and try to go back at it in the afternoon, and I would never be able to do it. I just couldn't get back that focus. But that's only in the rough draft phase. That's only the actual creation phase, and that phase is not stopping myself, not punctual, you know, not any of that. But then in the editing phase, I noticed that when I was just reading it and fixing it and stuff, that can be done at afternoon, and then at that point, yes, I would, you know, have to go out and go somewhere, go to the beach, go to the river, something. And I noticed, like, after writing for a few hours, that when it would really flow, like, I would have to do some kind of physical activity, or I'd have to go take a walk, or I'd have to go hike somewhere, or something, because I just had just so much energy that came out. Like, if my body didn't make it come out, I'd just, you know, I'd probably go crazy or something. But
So while writing this book, has there been a day where you've just like been in the flow so much you get warm, first hour, 2 hours, you know, you're getting warmed up and you're really not into it, you know, But then all of a sudden you get into it and you're like writing for 5 or 6 straight hours.
Yeah.
Does that happen for you?
Oh, it's happened, yeah. I mean, before, especially with this book, I never thought I could work on something for 7 hours at a time. You know, the point where like you get up and your butt hurts because you realize you've been sitting in the same position for like hours at a time. Even if your chair's comfortable, it doesn't matter. You know, if you haven't moved. But so yeah, I definitely found that, and it's great that I've been able to, because
It's very exciting, isn't it?
oh yeah, it was, and that was the feeling when I was writing it, especially because I described it like a good movie. You know, like you're watching a movie or something, and you're about halfway through, and you're really into it, and all this stuff's happening, and you get almost like upset that you want to know how it ends, like right now. You want to know the end because you just can't take it anymore, and all this stuff's happening. That's how I felt when I was writing the book, and as I was feeling almost like upset and like kind of like on edge, and I was just like had this feeling like, I had to finish it, but I really wanted to know how the story was going to end. I don't know if that sounds weird or not, but it was just, the flow was going that much that I knew it was going, and I knew it would come, but I also knew that, what my productive times were. No matter how much I wanted to produce that later in the day, it just wasn't going to happen. Yeah. And then at that point, I knew that the best thing I could do for myself was try to bring my energy back up. Go do the beach thing, or go do the river thing, or go see a friend, or go do something in some way that would bring my energy up, so that way when I knew I'd go back to write the next day, then I would be ready to go. So that's about the best thing I could do if I felt like I couldn't write later in the day.
Yeah.
Did you just like try to forget about the book? You're like, okay, I'm done. My 3 hours is up. Did you like, okay, I'm not going to think about it? Did you consciously do that, or was it probably slipped?
Yeah. Well, I mean, especially as it's like in the writing stage, because it's such stream of consciousness. When I'm done with it, I kind of know what the story's about. But until I read back through it, I'm like, oh, that happened? Because some of this stuff is like, I mean, the first read back through on the actual rough draft, like, I have, most of it doesn't even make sense. Because it's just like choppy sentences and words and things, everything is everywhere. But there's some good nuggets in there. I mean, and you chop and you hack and, all of that, but it's if you don't get it all out there, you're going to miss some good stuff. So that's just been definitely part of my process, part of getting it out. But
Speaking of getting it out, it seems to be what I've always noticed is that the best artists aren't necessarily the best marketers. And I love photography. I study photography.
sure, yeah.
And so I see sometimes the people that are the most successful, in my opinion, aren't even close to the best photographers. So from a marketing standpoint, what do you do to try to get your word out there? Because it's not easy. I was married to a writer, and it was a struggle.
Oh, it definitely is. I mean, I have a Facebook page. Probably be working on putting a website together, because I can put photos and videos and stuff of the readings and have some links on there. But other than that, hope for an agent, I guess, or like somebody that'll like work with me that really like is an actual.
Not mommy buns.
Mom is great. Don't get me wrong.
Mom is the publicist, and she's no professional.
And I don't mind,
Avenue connection.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's somebody that can plug me into, like, But see, and that's the thing, like, if I can get someone that markets well, that can actually help market this, that can plug it into markets, how the pay structure is set up and the percentages and stuff, I can make way more per book than someone at a big publishing house. But if going into a big publishing house is what it takes to really get my name out there, well, of course that's the way I'm going to go.
Volume.
Right, volume, of course. But if someone can help me create volume at this rate, I can make a decent amount of money. And not that I'm looking to make money, it
sustains the passion.
It sustains the passion, and, yeah, exactly.
I don't know if this would be an option for you, but a couple of things that come to mind for me are touching bases with the Small Business Administration. They have a marketing professional there that helps, that's all they do is help you market your product. And I think he's the marketing manager now for the entire city of Eureka Park and Recs. He is a fabulous resource. And
I bet I know exactly who you're talking about.
Stevie Q or something? Was that his
He's
name?
when I go to Weight Watchers,
Yes.
yeah,
So,
he's been my leader for the last 5.5 years. So yes, I'm very acquainted with him. Yes.
Okay, so then maybe not, but maybe you could, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's up to you. But then another,
Cheats on his diet.
well, who doesn't?
Everybody does.
We don't judge.
Well, I missed that. What did you say?
You can't trust me, he cheats on his diet.
And then another option would be getting in connection with like the Humboldt made scene.
there's that, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, no, I've seen that with, I mean, the different hot sauces and different,
Right, that's
different
what,
things, yeah.
those are the people that are attracted to it now, but they definitely promote and put out there everything made in Humboldt County, and this is made in Humboldt County.
Are you referring to the business downtown in Old Town Eureka? Because there's a business that is just solely things that are made in,
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
and I think that if you could, I think honestly, if you could get a little bit of space down there with your books on it, it might be pretty productive. I mean, and there are a lot of travelers moving through that place.
Yeah, so
Sure.
we want it to be a catalyst to something
Yeah,
outside of the county.
yeah, definitely. That would be cool. That would be
I'll
cool.
come up with the name of the business so I can give it to, I'll email it to you.
Oh yeah, that would be great. That'd be great.
I'll
Yeah,
get you on Facebook with it.
cool. Yeah. And I mean, any kind of help I can get is.
More readings like this. I
Yeah.
mean, there's
Yeah.
another one in
And
a couple
anybody who
weeks.
could do a review. If I can get like a review done of the book, that's huge too, because then you can show that to somebody, or somebody wants to know what the book is about, or something like that. That's why I was lucky. A friend of a friend did a review of my first book, so I was really, kind of very thankful for that. But yeah,
The advertiser?
yeah.
That's cool, I just read that.
Yeah, it was really kind of summed it all up good. I looked the guy up on the internet. He's written like 12 political books. I never heard of him, but apparently somebody knows he's written like 12 books. So, a guy named Jonah Raskin, knew him through my friend Emily, who has written stuff off and on for the North Coast Journal and Los Coast Outpost for, several years.
Advertiser too is one of those papers, it's
Yeah.
a small town paper, but it's got national attention.
Yeah.
People's, my dad subscribes to it.
Oh, really? Crazy. Okay. Yeah, that would be cool. That'd be cool.
That might be a bad idea, hit little small papers if you can't, you're not gonna, it's impossible to get into the big stuff, but hit kind of the little papers that represent small towns and just have it be organic and have it be discovered.
Yeah.
Going through, but you don't hit one, you hit 100.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I need, definitely.
Just ideas, just
Yeah.
think of kind of weird ways that other people don't do it. You just need a foot in the door.
That's it. That's what I need. So once that door's open, sky's the limit. It's just kind of, getting the foot in there.
Yeah.
So. Well,
Wind it up.
sure. Well, thank you all for coming tonight. I hope, hope you enjoy the book if you read it. I hope you do. But, thank you for showing support, and, any help, any, people that can talk about it is, a great thing. But then this is my favorite part, having conversations, because in the end, that's the purpose of writing the books in the first place, is starting conversations. Because the most any of us can do is start conversations. Try to take it a little bit of the next step. Because the best people in the history of the world only could take it the next step. I mean, if you're talking by any means, I am not comparing myself to Gandhi and Martin Luther King, but if you take people like that, the most people like that could even do is take it the next step. I mean, we're still at where we're at. So it's not, and it's not even about the revolution or the next revolution. It's about just kind of maybe evolving. Actually evolving. So here's to the conscious evolution of us all.
Amen to that.